Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the At the Show podcast, presented to you by Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my man?
Great. Welcome out there, everyone. Movie fans alike. Good to be here tonight.
Yes. Very eventful night so far. We've had podcast after podcast and wrestling streams. It was like 6 straight hours of podcasting. And then you end the night with us. So welcome if you're here.
Yeah, this is my 5th day in a row of podcasting. So this is the cherry on top of my week of podcasting, Yump, and I'm glad to share it with you.
Same, I mean,
and no, for those folks who watched It's Getting Drafty out there, I did not pick the drummer for you, Yump. He was already picked for me but I knew because I picked him that you would be so happy.
Yeah, you secured my vote.
That's like when you said Flea, I was like, hold your horses. I got somebody for you over here.
Nobody took Flea. That surprised me, but
well, if I couldn't have took who I got, I could be in a good pick.
Yeah. Check out the episode of It's Getting Drafted in here where Tony and a couple other people, Roxy and another fellow Penguin, and Magnificent Stan picked their band from all-time list of singer, bass player, rhythm, drummer, and what was the other one? Guitar.
For me, it was more like I was just trying to come up with a cool band. You know, I mean, like I wouldn't say those were the best players. I would just say I was looking for players that would work well, which I had asked Brian a couple times, what the hell was I doing? But I think it worked pretty well for everybody.
It was awesome, man. I really enjoyed the show. Bootsy, get the hell out of here, Brian. Bootsy Collins.
Brian does make a fair point, but you know, it should be an equal sign, not a greater than.
In terms of musician, Flea can play all the horn sections to go along with just bass.
Another show we could talk about this.
No, but my last thing to say though, did you know though, when I was reading about Flea like a while ago, he was actually like considered a prodigy for jazz because of his trumpet. Mm-hmm. He was getting recruited like to go like legit play jazz for real, which is crazy. Yeah, that's rude, Brian. That's rude.
Yep. No, I definitely Flea is great. I mean, definitely in the top 10 of bass players of all time. You know, I think sometimes it all depends on what you're looking for the bass player of the evening. Everybody pretty much who Flea and Les Claypool pull from Bootsy. So I'm always somebody that it's like, does there have to be the best? Can't they all just be cool? So
no, I'm sorry.
Not to you. I know you're very even
I'm
when
just giving you guys
about
shit.
The Chili Peppers. No, I know. I'm just kidding. You're a very serious Chili Peppers fan.
No, but I mean I was just giving you guys shit. I can be either way. It doesn't matter to me. But there, I gave your thing a plug, Brian, right away. Now, we got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be going through one of the prolific Hollywood actors that seems to be in everything these days, Samuel L. Jackson. Tone, what was your first Samuel L. Jackson film you ever saw?
Oh, I mean, I think like I have to say, knowing I was seeing it, probably Pulp Fiction. Not knowing that I was seeing it, probably something like Goodfellas because he's in there and you don't really realize he's in there. But I saw that before Pulp Fiction, something along those lines. I think I would go that route. How about you?
Coming to America.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's another one where it's I would definitely have seen Coming to America before Pulp Fiction. So yeah.
Yeah, Coming to America, and then I saw
Don't ever think
Goodfellas.
of
I'm
that
like,
role.
that's the guy that robs the store, the McDowell's.
Oh yeah. And boy, does he do a good job in that role too.
Yeah, who the fuck is this asshole? Yeah, so we got it's our 10 favorite movies of Samuel L. Jackson. Some of you may know, some are some hidden gems that Tony and I have gone through. But before we get to that list, let's go into what we've been watching this week, my friend.
Let's do it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what you been watching this week, my guy?
Two movies I've been watching this week. First off, I'm starting to try to get through some of these Oscar movies. It's for our show coming up, and they dropped A Real Pain on not Netflix, Hulu. A new movie directed by Jesse Eisenberg, up for 2 Academy Awards, also 4 Golden Globes. It's a comedy about a pair of cousins who go to Poland to visit their an ancestor's homeland, and it's pretty much it's a straight up comedy, but there's also some poignant moments because they visit things like concentration camps and talk to Holocaust survivors. But the acting chops of both Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg really carry this movie. I really think what I thought was really interesting too, in a great role, is Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She plays a role in this movie. Haven't seen her in something in a while, but a really good movie about just two cousins connecting over a family loss in another country and trying to explore their roots. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched any of Kieran Culkin in what the hell is it? It's
Succession?
Succession, but he's amazing. It's crazy because it's one of my favorite shows and I couldn't even think of the fucking name. But that being said, he does equally good work here in A Real Pain. If you have not seen this movie, I definitely suggest it.
Yeah, I have to check this one out. I haven't got into the Oscar movies yet. I am planning to start them soon. I've just been super busy with everything going on with work, but I will get into them soon. This is one of the ones I do want to see because I remember when we were talking about this at the mini show, you were talking about that Kieran actually deserved that Oscar nom.
Yeah, I mean it's more again. It was more I don't think it's nominated for Best Picture, and it was more of the fact that maybe some of a movie could have been taken off because always got to give credit to, let's just say, someone like Jesse Eisenberg, who isn't really known as a director, who kind of puts it on the line for this movie and actually gets really great performances, not only out of himself but out of Kieran. And hearing some of his interviews for this movie, he talks in depth about how he was actually supposed to play the Kieran part, but a lot of people told him, producers, that it would have been hard for him to direct as being the smartass in the movie as part of the straight man. So that's why he played the straight man role. So like interesting stuff like that. But again, it's a comedy. So I think if you like good comedies, you're going to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out.
It got just a little bit in there. I mean, I know you love this movie because we've talked about it, but it's got just a tad. If you like something like a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, you'll like this. Juxtaposition, really great. The next movie I watched, sadly, because of the passing of one David Lynch, I had to honor him in some way, and I honored him with watching Blue Velvet for the 6th, 7th, 8th time, somewhere around there. Just a very, very, very unique movie in so many ways. In many ways, the most unique thing about it is the performance of Dennis Hopper.
Oh, look at those. Ooh, what are these?
Don't say please, fuckhead! So yeah, again, I don't know of pretty much top 5 off-kilter performances I might have ever seen on film, and people put this movie really high in the film auteur category. And Kyle MacLachlan, who I just enjoy in so many different things. We've talked about him in The Hidden. He's great in Twin Peaks. He does a great job in this movie about pretty much a college student he plays, and he returns to his hometown and discovers a human ear, and pretty much discovers a criminal underground conspiracy led by Dennis Hopper, and just great performances all around by Isabella Rossellini, and also Hope Lang and Dean Stockwell, and the great Laura Dern is in it. Just a really great movie. Have you ever seen Blue Velvet?
Oh yeah, Frank Booth. Kyle MacLachlan, though I would say his most famous and probably best performance was in Showgirls.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, definitely.
No, Dennis Hopper steals the spotlight in this whole film. He's just so eccentric. I think he was nominated for an Oscar for this film, if not mistaken. I know it's a list on the cult films, but I think he was nominated for an Oscar for this. I could look it up right now.
I'm actually got it on right now. I know Lynch. Lynch was nominated for this film, but it is, in a lot of the AFI's top 100 lists, just a really good picture. Yes, David Lynch was nominated for Best Director, and Dennis Hopper was nominated the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. He was not nominated for any Academy Award.
Okay.
Yeah. He should have. I mean, a matter of fact, I would have just given it to him.
He was just for Hoosiers, and the only role I guess he got nominated for.
Another great role.
Yeah, I think this one was better than Hoosiers, but like every time I see this movie, I think of Super Mario Brothers, or as the people from New York, Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers. I think of him as Koopa, and I'm like, it's like you could totally tell he pulled some Blue Velvet for that role as Koopa, because the way he acts.
Well, Waterworld, he's great in that.
He's awesome. He's awesome in that too. But another actor that was just a great character actor that was gone way too soon due to illness. He's probably like one of my favorite like character actors out there, and there's so many of them. But he has like those memorable roles. Good picks, man. Good picks.
Thank you. What have you been watching?
I'm sorry. My buddy put Super Mario Brothers. So my buddy Johnny put Super Mario Brothers because his brother had recorded Super Mario Brothers, and instead of putting super, he put 2 P's for supper on the DVD on the VHS. And I don't know why, but Johnny was telling me this when we were driving to some poker game, and I could not stop laughing.
Supper Brother.
Oh man, I gotta have him tell you this story. Tell when you meet him.
Oh, I'd definitely like to hear that.
So I have been extremely busy with stuff that's been going on, but I have been in my anime phase. Now, the first thing I watched this week was, if you are big fans of Xbox or Dreamcast, one of the first Dreamcast games I bought was this game called Shenmue, which was like really interactive open world. It was like at the time the highest video game. It cost the most to make. I think it was like under almost $100 million to make it. It was like something that just blew my mind. You play as a character who's trying to find out about his father's death, and he's in Tokyo, but it was so interactive to the point where you actually work in the film to find clues. You can go around buying stuff out of vending machines. You can fight people, learn karate and different type of techniques. It's just basically it's like an interactive like RPG game. I fell in love with it. They had 2 sequels. One was released on Xbox, I believe, in 2002. And then they had a big announcement at E3, maybe 10 to 15 years later, that Shenmue 3 was coming out. And I think that came out in 2021 for PS4. It's the reason I bought a PS4 was for that game, because it was basically crowdfunding. That's how much people wanted the game to finish the story. I happened to see the animated series, which covers the first 2 games on Crunchyroll. And I gotta say, for 30-minute episodes, you can watch it in English or in Japanese. I watched it in Japanese. good action, and it gets to the point of the story without having to go through like the little side stuff that they had. So it's a pretty good flow. I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers had bought out the company that made Shenmue, and they canceled the series even though it was really popular at the time, and they had a third season going in because they just released a new game. So we'll never get a third season. Warner Brothers has talked that they might bring her back, but it's highly unlikely. And there's no tentacle porn in this. No, no, Brian. I know you talk about the hentai. Anime is a gateway to hentai. Be careful. Yes, I've heard of hentai, but yeah. So Shenmue, awesome game, awesome animated series. Have you seen or played the game?
No, no, I have not. But the way you describe it, I would not mind playing it.
Yeah, if you want to like check it out on YouTube, I think I did a video on Shenmue the series, like on my YouTube channel a long time ago. But I think I might have posted it with the Penguins, but I'm not sure. But
When you told me, I first thought it was like that dancing thing. It's like Shen Yun. Was
no,
it Shen? But no, this is something
no.
different.
The next thing I watched is a 1980s film called Ninja Scroll, which turns out to be like one of the most popular anime movies. I never heard of it. I just looked up to see what anime movies to actually have to see. And this was on the list, top 10, I believe, of Forbes. So I watched it. It's basically about like a wandering samurai that just is trying to help take down the Shadow Shogun organization. It's like pretty, I guess, stereotypical, but a shitload of blood, man. Like he slices people up pretty bad. And it's basically him and one other person, the girl in the cover against like a whole league of men and like 8 like top bosses that he fights, which it was really interesting, really cool style for the 80s. I'm always into like the gore and the anime, right? So right up my alley. Uh, there is some like weird stuff in it, not to the degree that Brian is saying about tentacle porn, but there is like some stuff in it that's like what the fuck. But it was a very interesting film. I highly recommend this one too if you're really into like the old anime. It just shows how like in the 80s and 90s, the early 90s, how so much work went into making these films, and they still look good today. They don't look outdated, which I think is awesome. Have you seen this one?
No, I haven't, but I will agree with you just based upon doing the research of getting the poster for this, because I just don't find one poster. I'm trying to like look through it, and then I go down a rabbit hole and read about it, and it looks like it just came out. A lot of the stuff I was seeing for the movie, you know what I mean? It's not, doesn't look dated. It looks really cool.
Yeah. So sorry, I've been into the anime phase, but it's something my buddy Christian turned me on to. Was just watching anime, and I just you know how I am with movies and stuff. Something new just to go into it.
Switching
But
it up. That's what we
yeah,
like here.
but if you're into that kind of stuff, check out those films and that series if you're into the game, which is like really pays homage to the original game with the Shenmue series.
Very cool. Very cool.
Cool. So that's what we watched this week. Let us know what you watched over at X, Twitter, or Elon Musk site. I don't know, or on YouTube. Let us know in the comments or at our own handles on Twitter at the Hookup on Music, or at Lil Yumper, or at the Sugar Baggy. So with that tone, we already talked about our first time introduced to Samuel L. Jackson. I just want to ask, like, do you think, like, was there a time where you like saw him in a movie, any movie, and you're like, this guy's in fucking everything?
Actually, today, you're saying to yourself, like, I played a movie. Let's see if you can guess it. I played a movie today at school, and it wasn't by chance. I just happened to be playing it, and then it clicked. I was like, oh, we're talking about him today. What movie could I have played of his today at school? I'll give you 2 guesses.
Was it recent?
2003.
Ooh. Coach Carter?
Nope. Good guess, though.
I don't know.
Right.
Wait. 2003. It's not Marvel. I don't know. I give up.
It's 04. It's 03 or 04. It's Incredibles.
Oh, yeah. He's the Frost guy.
Yeah, which to me is, wow, what a role. He's hilarious in that role. Honey, have you seen my superhero outfit? But again, you're saying to yourself, Yeah, him. And I said it to somebody out loud, and one of the kids is like, "That's really Samuel L. Jackson, the guy who's in all the other bad, like the cool movies." I'm like, "This is a cool movie. He's in this." But yeah, probably again, but I've always known. And then I repeated that he's actually one of the hardest working actors ever of all time.
Yeah, his basic love is acting. He doesn't care if the movie sucks or it's good. He just loves acting, and he's got the what they call the walk-in bug because Christopher Walken's in a lot of films too. He'd be another great person to do a deep dive on.
Yeah.
They have so many films in their their filmography, but they do it because they love acting. It's pretty cool, and they still knock out the ballpark in every role they do.
Oh, they
Samuel
do.
L. Jackson is very versatile, even though people might think him as the guy who's always yelling, the Dave Chappelle skit of the Samuel L. Jackson beer.
Mhm.
But he's actually a very, very talented actor.
He can do a lot of different things, which we're gonna showcase tonight. And it's exciting to see somebody like him who has put so much work into it and still keeps coming out, with quality after quality after quality performance. Real quick, I don't know if you've seen another Ironically was last night. It was called it was a music concert in California for the fires. Your Chili Peppers played. Before the Chili Peppers, one of the MCs was Samuel L. Jackson. And you'd say to yourself, like, that's how, they only had him and Billy Crystal and like two other guys. So it wasn't like, wow, we just got a whole bunch of nobodies. This was a huge, big thing to get people to come out and do that. So he's awesome, and he's always in the tops of just being really, really not only just a great actor, but an all around seems to be a great person.
Yeah, yeah. He had some struggles, coming up, and he just he found his niche, and now he's big time.
Yeah,
But let's get into our first one with him, shall we?
let's do it.
Hold on to your butts.
1993's Jurassic Park. He played the role of Mr. Arnold, directed by Steven Spielberg, who also directed movies such as Schindler's List, E.T., Jaws, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull, Hook, and Save It Private Ryan. The film stars, along with Jackson, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and Richard Attenborough, at a box office of $1 billion on a $63 million budget. Now, the reason I picked this is because even though it's a small role, I thought he used his time in this role perfectly. He plays that's his one line, hold on to your butts, but his monologue with Nedry when he gets pissed off at his computer, please. And then but the whole thing before that, when he's doing the Axis to main frame, Axis. I just love that whole thing because it's him as a techie, another role that you wouldn't think Samuel L. Jackson would play as a techie. And even though he gets eaten by the Raptors, I loved this part, this little role of him. So it's one of my favorite Samuel L. Jackson roles just for that. And plus, it has a movie about dinosaurs. So you get Samuel L. Jackson and dinosaurs. What's better than that, man?
I've already told a little fib. I saw this one at the theater before I saw Pulp Fiction, so obviously I've seen him in this first again. But you don't think, when someone goes, give me Samuel L. Jackson, people always go like Pulp Fiction, something along those lines. In this one, as you stated, he plays such a good role because it is buried in the dinosaurs. Nobody, is thinking of this performance, but as a scientist, he did a great job.
Yeah, he totally did. I love it that he, has a small role as a tech guy. His one-liner is great. His catchphrase, hold on to your butts. And, he has a little back and forth with Newman. So it's one of my favorite ones. Jurassic Park, of course, is a classic. It's one of my favorite films growing up. I saw this in theater too. I remember the surround sound and hearing the T-Rex walk. We did a whole deep dive on this film. Which I love that we did it on, but this is a nice little guilty pleasure that I had. Samuel L. Jackson as one of my favorite roles is in this film.
I could imagine too at this time period in his career to even land this role. we had talked about it on the deep dive. The casting for it. But to actually, after seeing this movie so many years later, and then see all of his other movies that we talk about, and it still holds up, in that role. Along with
Yeah.
a role like stated there, like a Kingsman. I mean, that's another really great role of his. And you can see again just how different both of those roles are, but how great they both are too at the same time.
Yeah, you can see like just and it's just crazy that this is just such a small role, and usually it shows how talented you are by being memorable in this limited time you get on screen. And he definitely was memorable to me. He put an impression on me as a kid, and like I'm still talking about him as an adult now, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and I know they're already coming out with one. I think this next summer.
Mhm.
Sure, now he won't be in it. I don't, of course. But
Unless
again,
they resurrect him.
but children, okay, children for the end of time who like dinosaurs will always watch Jurassic Park and go back to that first one because it's the classic. And who will they see in that role forever? Samuel L. Jackson. So it's pretty cool in that way if you think about it, because he may not be in all of them, but because it's such a big franchise, you always got to go back and watch that first classic.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, so if you haven't seen Jurassic Park, what rock have you been living under? But if you do, not just for the dinosaurs, look out for my man Arnold, aka Samuel L. Jackson, uh, because he is awesome. Brian asks, "Are there any dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour?" Jeff Goldblum's another great character in the film, but he's
Yes,
more of a main star. But like Samuel L., as makes a little brief appearance in there, spices it up a little bit.
does.
But let's get into your film, Tone.
Let's do it.
Look, what you want me to do? Lie to you? Just because you pour syrup on shit don't make it pancakes, you know what I'm saying? All you could see was that number one thing, that butt. I don't even know why you thought that was so tough.
Because she got the snapping nappy dugout.
The snapping nappy dugout?
Snapping nappy dugout.
1992's Juice. He played the role of Trip. The movie was directed by Ernest R. Dickerson, who did another great film, Surviving the Game, A Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, Bones, and the Adam Sandler Damon Wayans film Bulletproof. The film stars Omar Epps, Tupac Shakur, Khalil Kane, and Jermaine Hopkins to go along with Jackson. The movie had a box office of $20 million on a $5 million budget. Tone, tell me why you picked Juice, my man.
I watched this movie a little bit later than a lot of other movies, at the time. I probably saw this movie in the last 5-6 years for the first time. And for some unknown reason, when I saw it, well, of course, the performance of Samuel L. Jackson's great, but again, it's not like he is one of the main stars in the movie. It's a little bit of a background character. Tupac Shakur really brings it in this role. So does Omar Epps. Brings it also. The movie kind of reminds me of a very, very, very twisted Stand By Me in my head. It's like four friends. They're supposed to have this whole, rest of their life, but then they just get mixed up in some really bad stuff. And then one of them gets even worse. And it's just a real twisted tale. And I think that's why I am always drawn to it. Because to me, this movie's a little bit different than I also love Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood. But for me, I like Juice and like Dead Presidents more because there's something a little bit deeper, I think, going. Not that's the wrong term, not deeper going on. It's different than maybe the format of those other two movies.
Yeah, I mean, the name Juice can mean two things. Like one, it can mean, paying a gambling debt, how much interest you use. And then it was meant to mean like how much rep you got in the street. Like you got a little juice with you or like respect or stuff like that. At least when I was growing up, that's what it meant. This film is like the one that kind of broke out Tupac Shakur and kind of like made his gangster image bigger. And also show I thought it was an OJ movie. Yeah. Also, this is Ernest R. Dickerson's like directorial debut. I really like this film. Tupac annoys the shit out of me in this film because of the role he plays. That's just shows he had talent as an actor, which, if you really want to go into his rap career and see his background, he went to Juilliard, so he was really talented. And he kind of gets you hating him in the film because he becomes bloodthirsty and lustful for killing people.
That scene
After
where
Mhm.
he's at the locker and he closes the locker in his face, he's just like standing there with that menacing look at Omar Epps. I mean,
Yeah.
again, and Omar Epps does a good job juxtaposition to Tupac.
Yeah, and it's crazy though that Steele, his wife, I'm not his wife, his mom in the film is actually Samuel L. Jackson's wife in real life, which is
Oh,
pretty crazy.
hmm.
I just learned that today when I was doing research for the film. But like they said, Tupac did a audition twice for this film uh, to get the role, and basically he got it. And this is probably his best role in film. I mean, unless you want to call it like poetic justice. Which, or, that movie Nothing But Trouble, like Brian says, that's his best role, when he's saying, same song. But, it's perfectly cast. Omar Epps is just out of high school for his film. He was actually thinking about becoming a singer before he got this role, which is crazy. But, this one is totally, totally like a film that should be up there when you talk about, good urban films. I always think of Juice, and I always think of this film called Fresh,
Yeah.
which doesn't really ever get mentioned a lot. It was really big when, it got released, but it never, kinda like the momentum for the actor, it never really went at anywhere after that. And Samuel L. Jackson's in that one too. He's Sam, I believe he plays his dad in that film. But this one, is a great film to check out. It's kinda go like Omar Epps is in some good films too, like, this one, he was in N Too Deep with LL Cool J. And then he also was in Major League too.
Yes.
Yes, Sam, he does look like Mike Tomlin. Like Omar Epps. Me and brother always say that like they look like they could be brothers, Mike Tomlin and Omar Epps.
I watch one of the Power shows on Stars, and he plays like an aging detective on there. And boy, does he look like Mike Tomlin now more than ever.
He's also in House too.
Oh
He's another
yeah,
great actor too.
he was on
That does a
ER
great
for a
job.
while. Yeah,
Yeah, he's in one of these this film called The Wood that I really like. It's about him and his friends that go back for a
good
wedding.
movie. That's a good movie.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen Juice, check it out. It's definitely a great film. Samuel L. Jackson does a great job, and then you heard a little clip from him as Trip. But it's a great ensemble cast for this film, and tells like it's a great. I keep saying great, but it's just awesome the way they tell the story of the film. And Tupac does his best acting, and you can see him slowly change into that person that just gets like obsessed with becoming, dangerous, and it just spirals out of control.
I know you don't like him at all, but it's actually a really good movie, and they actually do a good job together. Him and Jim Belushi and Gang Related. They're partners, like police partners, but they're like really, really crooked. But again, Tupac could act with the best of them, as you stated. His career could have really been a burgeoning actor if he, just
Yeah,
kept
and
pursuing in that regard.
yeah, but I mean, he was considered the greatest rapper of all time on some people's list. So he had
Well,
a pretty
yeah,
good run there
I
too.
think him being a greatest rapper, is what got him not around anymore. But that could just be something.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into the whole thing of that too, but you know, uh, shout out Jordan Miller. But you know, Juice is a great film. If you haven't seen it, it's one of those classics that don't get mentioned a lot and should be mentioned more.
Mhm.
One of the great urban films. And Brian asked the question: did Tony just say "good" and Jim Belushi in the same sentence?
Again, I could name 7 good Jim Belushi movies. You probably haven't seen them, but
Red Heat.
you'd have to see them and then sit next to me while we watch them, and then when the movie ends, with a straight face, look at me and go, "That movie sucked." And then I'd be like, "Okay, man, explain to me how."
You
But
know, you know what Jim Belushi movie I like a lot?
and you're
And
talking to the biggest John Belushi fan and a guy who used to rip Jim Belushi 24/7 until I was like, you know what? He ain't as bad as he ain't bad as Mel Gibson, Stallone, John Voight. Like, if you really follow him, he's done some pretty good things lately.
so my favorite Jim Belushi film besides Jingle All the Way when he plays
Okay,
Santa.
Curly Sue, we're not talking.
No. My favorite Jim Belushi film is actually Mr. Wonderful.
It's not a bad movie.
But the reason that he gets such a bad rep is because it's not just nepotism of him being the brother of John. It's the fact that people have and not just people in the industry, but people in Chicago have said
that's actually not fair to say because they actually started the same time, but John just became more famous. I'm so familiar with the story. It's like Jim wasn't like 5 years later after John died. He's like, you know what? I'd like to have this career in comedy. And they're like, your name's Belushi. Let's give you a role. That's not how it worked for him. Jim, actually had a child before John actually was on Saturday Night Live. So Jim was trying his hardest at that same period. He just didn't make it at that same time.
Not just that though, but from people that I've read that have had interaction with him, said that he's just an asshole.
Well, I'm sure. I mean,
he throws John's name around as like, you know who my brother is? And I'm like, that made me not like him.
Well, you know what? On the next At the Mini Show, we'll talk about how, actors versus their maybe outside personas. Because, I mean, that's fair, but I'm just going by his roles. That was strictly it. And you haven't even really met him, and you just hear it in secondhand stories too, is something completely different. Because
I haven't met Hulk Hogan, and I can already tell you I don't like him.
Well, again, there's a lot of things that I'm not going to say here on the thing and get into Jim's private life. I think that's not what today's about. That's technically it, but
he was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
I've never seen this movie with him in it, or that movie, or this movie. But you know what? He ain't any good.
I watched a lot of Jim Belushi movies.
But not the ones that I guarantee the ones that are off the top of my head you have not seen.
Red Heat.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, give me a Jim Belushi off the top of your head.
You know what? That's what I said we're not doing because
no.
The position I put you in, the way these always go is no matter what I say, you'll say, yeah, I saw it, and you'll look it right up in your computer.
I'm sorry. The movie was Mr. Destiny. Not Mr.
I'll
Wonderful.
just say it's a movie it's a directed by Oliver Stone movie. What movie is it?
Was it JFK?
No.
Joe Somebody?
Nope.
Thief?
Nope.
I don't know. Give me it.
Salvador.
Okay. I haven't seen Salvador. It has James Woods in it too.
Which is crazy because it's your trifecta of probably guys. You're like, Jesus, this is gonna suck. But it's not really. It's actually very gritty and it's not bad. But again, one movie. I don't know him personally. I'm just saying he ain't no.
I'm not saying he's not bad. He just annoys me.
Well, again, I understand he ain't John, and I've wanted John back for a long time. You're talking to a guy who John is probably. I love John, so let's just leave it there.
Since we're discussing this and we're just having this discussion.
Yeah.
If you're listening or if you're watching, let us know. If you are a big fan of Jim Belushi, I want to know of the At the Show podcast listeners and watchers. Are you a big fan of Jim Belushi? Am I wrong for not liking him?
Well, I think you're very I hate when people do it because you do it. You do this for a couple different things, and since you're putting it out there like that for our fans, I could put this out there. You're going and saying, here's this guy, and I don't have it in front of me, but he has over 50 movies. He sucks. That's what you're saying. And Brian says it too. I don't do that with anybody because there's no way with 50 movies. Well, he's not good. You don't like him.
Just said I don't like him.
What's the difference between suck and not like him?
That's totally not true because I do not like Will Smith. It doesn't mean he's not talented.
Well, Jim Belushi is, I would say, and don't get me wrong, he's not I wouldn't put him in a talented actor. I'm saying
he's talking about
good movies. You're saying Jim Belushi's a Academy Award actor?
Have you seen him in Mr. Destiny?
He's a good movie. Again,
have you seen him in K9? Come on,
Christopher
man.
Walken a Academy Award
Christopher
actor?
Walken. Yeah, he's won one. He's won for Deer Hunter.
Well, again, so when was Deer Hunter, my friend?
In 84.
He sure didn't win for the one with Al Pacino playing where they're all where they're all old guys. You know what I mean? He didn't win one for that. I'm talking about recent.
He's 90. Come on,
Again,
Toad.
what about when he was 60?
Oh, he was in The Prophecy, man. It's another classic. Come on.
It's a classic, not Academy Award winning.
Oh, totally, bro. Come on, it's Gabriel. Come on.
Again, I could do this all night long. I could take things you like and be like, that sucks, but I like it.
But I'm not saying
you know
that sucks. But see, that's what you're getting wrong. You're saying that I'm saying that sucks.
No, there's
said,
topics for
I
the
don't like
show
him.
that are unbreachable because you don't like them. Here they are.
No.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Jim Belushi, Oliver Stone.
I like Oliver Stone.
Well, the Doors movie.
I don't like the Doors movie, but that doesn't mean I don't like
I've
Oliver
heard
Stone.
you go off about Oliver Stone multiple times. You
No,
can't say
just the Doors, and I'm not a big fan of Scarface.
Oh, well, Scarface is again. Okay, so Scarface, that was my fourth one. There's more too.
But just because I don't like Scarface doesn't mean that I think Pacino's a bad actor or I think Jim Belushi's a bad actor. I just don't like Jim Belushi.
Well, but the difference is Scarface is actually a good movie, and Jim Belushi isn't in any movie that's even close to Scarface. So we're really off.
Joe Dirt, baby. I'm sorry, but this is what you come to the show for us to argue and debate.
Well, that's what it is. We got time. We got to get this time up. We're filling time.
This is Stoop and me. Sam Plus. This is Stoop and me, but about dumber things. Hey, man, we love movies, but I'm not gonna say. You know what? I'll say this though, Tone. Like, I might not like it, but if you like him, hey, that's your. Everybody likes what they like, and I'm not gonna say you're not right.
It's not okay. Let me put it to you this way. We'll just leave. I'll say one more thing, and if you would like to retract to what I say, okay, back to the Scarface thing. Your main issue that I've heard from you with Scarface is that he is not playing to who the ethnic of the character is. That's your main complaint. But that's like saying, every movie where the person doesn't play to the mythical thing that the movie sucks. That's not true. And the movie is very pulpy. It's
you
not
know why?
Like,
do you know why with him?
Movie.
But you know why with him, I held him to a higher regard.
Why?
Because it's Al Pacino, probably one of the greatest actors among people. That's one of the reasons why.
I sure hope you didn't see Righteous Kill with De Niro.
That movie was horrible.
Well, that's what I mean. So, like, the thing is that.
But this is like later in the. This is prime Pacino though. This is after Godfather. This is after Serpico.
And will you say that you probably, and I'll be honest with you, you and you could even mention Brian here because I could see he said it too. You guys are in the minority. That's it.
Oh, I totally agree. I am in the minority,
and that was all what I was trying to get at.
That's totally fine. And I mean, we're in a minority about the natural too. I mean, people like what they like.
Well, that one I do hear a lot of people because that one's something different. People believe in baseball different ways today, and some people. I look at that movie in a nostalgia way. You look at it as it just seems to be stupid. It seems, but that's
no. I don't look at it. I just like the book better.
Well, that's even so. I understand that. That's a whole completely different argument.
But my last thing on Scarface because we're getting carried away here. Scarface, like, I think Scarface for the time was a decent film. I don't like the fact that Pacino plays a Latino character, doesn't speak Spanish in it as much. That part. I do get why people like it because it's becoming from nothing to becoming the top of the crime syndicate. It had good music for the time. It has decent style in it. I think the style has a little bit aged because it was in the early 80s.
Loaded movie.
When I think of a film of Pacino playing a gang, like a leader of a mafia type person, besides the obvious mafia type roles like Godfather, my favorite film comparable to this is Carlito's Way. But that's more after the fact he was big. You know what I'm saying? After he was in the life and he got out, he's trying to make a change. That's just me. Scarface, I watched it, and like even when I first watched it, I'm like, oh, it's okay, but I couldn't just get. I think maybe that what killed me on it was hyped up so much to me that it kind of let me down. If that makes sense.
I will say this, and I will say this about Scarface. It's very long, too long. Number one, it's a sum of its part. It's better if you watch there's like 10 great parts in the movie, and you just watch those parts and shut it off. If you actually sit and watch the whole movie, it could be what you describe. So I will give you that. It's more of there are these 10 parts where, to me, they are just either so actively ridiculous in a good way and an over the top way, which I think that's what they were going for. Robert Loggia is great in the movie too. But again, I see your points too. So We'll leave it there, my friend.
Didn't know Samuel L. Jackson would end up being about Jim Belushi and that yeah, easily edit out 40 minutes. Yeah, of Scarface, yes. Sorry about that, and we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming with our Samuel L.
Why are
Jackson.
you apologizing? We have to try to get to 2 hours, and we were already 2 movies down with only 8 to go. We probably
Yeah.
weren't
So this argument's for you, Mr. Michael Cotton.
I mean, I don't
No.
apologize. This is a movie show, so we can actually not talk anymore and just continue what we're talking about. That's just me, though.
That is true, but we did get off subject. We went from like one thing to another. But yeah, back to Juice. Good movie. Check it out. Let's go into our next film.
Your whole way of life is bullshit. Macho is bullshit. That's all I got. Oh, so now you're the victim. Well, let me take your turn for you. No!
1997's 187. He played the role of Trevor Garfield. It was directed by Kevin Reynolds, who did Waterworld, Tony's favorite, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner, The Count of Monte Cristo, and Risen. The movie stars John Hurd along with Kelly Rowland, Clifton Collins Jr., Tony Plana, Karina Arroyva, Lobo Sebastian, and Demetrius Navarro. The movie had a budget of $20 million and made a $5 million box office. This is one of my films, a film that doesn't get talked about enough. And it's not a great film per se. I just think that Samuel L. Jackson does a great job as playing a teacher who was assaulted by a student in his previous job. He got no support from his school or the police. He basically was stabbed, injured, comes to a new school to try get his life back together. And it's basically it's a public school full of these stereotypical game bangers. But this shows more, I guess, realism in terms of the gangs of California at the time. And he meets, basically he's trying to turn around the life of this girl. He meets a student trying to help her out. He's liked by students, but he's not taking shit from any of these gang members anymore. And basically it gets to the point where he ends up at the end of the film playing Russian roulette with one of the leaders, which is Clifton Collins Jr. I think Clifton Collins Jr. does a great job of playing the stereotypical, homeboy. And you kind of feel for Samuel L. Jackson in here as, he's troubled, but he does take some liberties and take advantage of, getting back at these people that he's not going to take shit from anymore. Tone, have you seen this movie?
Great movie. Well, as you stated, I like to say everything's a great movie that I enjoy, but it's a really good movie. I like Samuel Jackson's black rimmed glasses in this movie. They really add to his role, and he is like the whole movie borderlining. He's borderlining on the edge of snapping, but like he's keeping it together for the good cause, which is tough to do in this certain situation that you describe. I mean, and Clifton Collins Jr., he's not only good in this, he's good in a lot of different things. So they mix it up really well in this one.
Yeah, their chemistry, and one of my favorite parts in this film, just to draw off tension, is when he goes to visit him at his house. And he comes out and starts yelling at him, and they all start following him to his car. Like that shit, if you think about it, I've seen situations like that, growing up, that shit doesn't end well. And though they let him get in his car, it was just lucky for him. But the fact, you're like, damn, are they gonna jump him in here? Even as I was watching, it's like, damn, you kind of get some tension there. You feel anxious about what's gonna happen there. Another thing too I like about this film, and more towards a YouTube kind of sense, is there's this California group called CLS, which is Cali Lifestyle. They have this song called Lost out there. And they to their song Lost, somebody actually put scenes from this film in there, which go along with the song. So if you want to check that out, it's on YouTube, called I think it's called Mexican Invasion. But and this film is just another underrated film that doesn't get talked about enough.
Again, when you look at him in you just back it up a couple years. I mean, it's only when did we say Jurassic Park came out in 93?
Yep.
So 4 years after that, I mean, he already looks more veteran-y than he did in Jurassic Park, and he's wearing glasses just like he does in that movie. And that shows you like the maturity in this role. You can see he puts it all on the line for it.
Yeah, totally. He does a great job, and like I said, he plays kind of a sympathetic character that is doing things that they never say if he really did them or not, but you kind of figure he was doing them to get back. And this film was based off a real incident that happened to a substitute teacher in the Los Angeles area, high school area. Uh, like a violent transfer student threatened to kill him and his family. The screenwriter that wrote this was a person that reported a threat to the authorities, and the student was arrested. About a week later, a district attorney called this screenwriter, his name was Yagman, Scott Yagman, to testify against the student in a court of law, where a student was being prosecuted for stabbing another teacher's aide a year before. This oversight annoyed the screenwriter, Scott Yagman, and who had been not told about it before, that inspired him to write this story. So stuff like this does really happen, in the real world. And to me, it's like people think when they think of like bad school movies, like Dangerous Minds always comes to, which what's her name? She was in
Michelle
Scarface.
Pfeiffer?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one I think
Julio, Gangster Paradise.
Yeah, but this one I think is better than The Substitute and Dangerous Minds.
Definitely, I would agree with you. Dangerous Minds is a little cliche and a kind of bit. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, so this one I actually watched about a year and a half ago for the first time too, because I don't know how it slipped under my radar, but I always love movies like this. I hate to bring them up again, but a really great movie from the '80s is The Principal with good old Jim. But again, these movies where you got a guy who comes in a school and has to bust heads and get guys in line, or the fact that you can, if you work in the industry of schooling or helping any kind of child, just how tough this would be for him to actually be in doing this. Sometimes that's for me a great part of movie watching. I know I used to have this conversation with people. They just sometimes want to watch a movie and escape, like an escape movie. A movie like this for me is an empathetic movie where I could put myself in the shoes of Samuel Jackson and be like, wow.
Yeah, it's just it's really got me into it, in terms of the movie. Even though, like I said, it's not like a masterpiece film, but it gives a lot of good feelings and vibes from like the area that I grew up in and areas that I worked in this type of area before in my career, in corrections and stuff. So, but the crazy thing is, Tone, I did a little research of this. Nicolas Cage and Gary Sinise were considered for the role of Shepard Garfield, which is Sam's Spot. Do you think they could have done it?
No. Did you say Gary Sinise?
Lieutenant Dan himself.
Oh man, no, and I definitely don't think Nicholas could have did it either. Not built for this role. The role's looking for grit, and ironically, here in a second, we're going to mix up one of the guys you just said with Samuel Jackson. So, but he couldn't have pulled off. Cage couldn't have pulled off this role.
Yep. But let's move on to our next one, man.
Let's do it.
Do you hear that? Yeah, the bass is too heavy, y'all. The time has come for everyone to clean up their own backyard.
1995's Kiss of Death. He plays the role of Calvin Hart. The film was directed by Barbara Schroeder, who did Barfly, Seeing a White Female, Our Lady of Assassins, and Murder by Numbers. The film, along with Samuel, stars Nicolas Cage, David Caruso, H himself, Helen Hunt, Catherine Erbe, I think is how you say her name, Tone? E-R-B-E? Erbe?
Yes.
Or Erbe. And Stanley Tucci. The movie had a box office of $14 million and a budget of $40 million. So, Tone, I have not seen this film. So sell it to me, my man.
All right, so we're going to back up to when it was released in 1995. It's a year after Pulp Fiction, and pretty much it was a time period where, because this one movie was successful, other movies are trying to come out that will kind of give that same kind of feel. So Kiss of Death is a mob related movie with yes, yeah, well, we're gonna get to that in a second. A great scene with House of Pain. Nicolas Cage is a mobster in this movie, as you can tell with his voice right there. He is he's not a good person in this movie at all. David Caruso is pretty much like goes undercover to get into his kind of gang to figure out what's going on. Samuel Jackson plays a really, really, really cool role because the whole movie, his one eye is like, he's got this thing where his eye just keeps tearing up. So he has to keep taking tissue out and dabbing his eye. So that's his thing in this movie, which every movie, Samuel Jackson's got a different thing. But if you like, see, I love movies like any movie that could just have anything to do with the mob, as long as it's got a halfway decent story. This is pretty much like your description of when you start talking about 187. You know what I mean? It's not the best, but is it a good Saturday night movie, maybe just to put on and have a good time and watch? I think so. It really didn't do well at the box office. And Caruso, this was supposed to be his big ticket to be like the next Tom Cruise. And this movie and William Friedkin's Jade pretty much buried those plans for Mr. Caruso, which is sad because he left NYPD Blue for the movie career that did not end up blossoming. But luckily, he got to come back in CSI. But this is not a bad movie for Nicolas Cage either, because it's different. And how often do you get to see Nicolas Cage with that type of facial hair like you do in the poster here?
Yeah, looking at the clips for this, like, he looks so young in this film, like super young. But Caruso, this movie, of course, did bomb at the box office. Back to with Caruso, he did leave NYPD Blue, and like he was at top of the mountain, man. He won a Golden Globe and a Golden Globe and an Emmy in the first season of NYPD Blue. I watched that whole series, and he was good, but Dennis Franz was always like, I think, kind of stole the show a little bit from him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was good in the role, as Kelly. And like these films set him back because they did not get rated very well by critics, and they bombed at the box office. And luckily for him, H was out there, the role of H, which always cracks me up. Him as H, David Caruso as H, was there for him, but he was paid $1 million for this role, so good for him.
If you like ridiculous performances, we did not mention him also in the movie, is Michael Rappaport. And he there's a scene in which was there's a huge beatdown and House of Pain jump around is what's going on. Nicolas Cage brings his cassette and puts it on the player and then turns it up really loud and like beats some guy up half. But again, if you like,
that's the thing that I played to open the thing when he says you gotta clean up your own garbage.
What I was gonna say is this is the you just like anything that has to do with like the mob or organized crime, not a bad movie.
Yeah, it's something I definitely will check out. Like just watching the clips and doing research for it. You have Chuck Zito, who is a stuntman on this film. He was a former Hell's Angel. If you've seen the show Oz, he's Chucky in the show Oz. He's a real big dude. He's but the only thing that Chuck Zito sticks out for me. One thing about him, besides being an Oz, because I used to watch that show, is that he knocked out Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Really?
Yeah, I think Jean-Claude was coked up when he was doing a lot of coke, and he was a bouncer or a security guard somewhere, and he got a little too like rough with him, and he just knocked him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chuck Zito, he does a great podcast with Chaz Palminteri, a episode of his podcast, Chaz Palminteri. He has Chuck Zito on there, and it's pretty interesting to hear him talk about the Hells Angels and all that stuff, because he got the Hells Angels to be in Bronx Tale, which is the biker gang that he beats up. Those are Hells Angels members. He gets them to go in there and gives them some benefits to being on SAG and stuff like that. But this film has Ving Rhames in it too. Ving Rhames as well.
Mm-hmm.
and Paul Calderon, who are all in another film together that we might talk about later on. It says John Castello, who plays Samuel L. Jackson's partner in the film, also played a cop in the 1991 film The Hard Way, starring Michael J. Fox and James Woods. Yeah, I definitely have to check this one out. It's something that interests me. You know, mafia films I haven't heard of.
Philip Baker Hall's in it too. He's a really good actor. It's again, but again, it's one that's what's great about the show is like, you know, later down the line, we can break down a lot of movies we might not talk about Samuel L. Jackson because that's how good they are. When are we ever going to ever talk about Kiss of Death again? You know, and that's why it was cool to bring it up here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So, one movie I would definitely have to check out, my friend. A great line. Now use can't sleep. But let's move on to our next one, my guy.
Oh, well, not quite the storybook ending, huh? Not for us, anyway. But you men played like champions. You never gave up. And champions hold their heads high. What you achieved goes way beyond the win-loss column or what's going to be written on the front page of the sports section tomorrow. You've achieved something that some people spend their whole lives trying to find.
2005's Coach Carter, which he plays the role of Ken Carter. The film was directed by Thomas Carter, who did Swing Kids, Metro, and When the Game Stands Tall. The film stars Rick Gonzalez along with Robert Richard, Channing Tatum, Ashanti, Nana Gibowano, I think he says his name, and Antoine Tanner. Leave it up to me to pick a person's name that I can't say to say in this starring role, but I gotta give him his props. The movie had a budget of $30 million and made $76 million at the box office. I get a lot of shit for this tone because a few years ago, my friends posted like your favorite sports movies. This is my favorite basketball movie. I think it gives a good message on taking accountability and trying to better oneself. I really like that message. I think that since it's based off a true story too, I really like that. That was cool. I know it's not everybody's favorite one. I just love, it's corny, but I really like Samuel L. Jackson's character in here as Ken Carter. And for those who don't know, Ken Carter basically he made rules for his team. He was a leading scorer at his high school. He took over a basketball team that was horrible. One, but two, he basically made them take accountability for themselves. He made them go to school. He made them dress in suit and tie, sit in the front row of their classes. And if you didn't follow these rules, if you didn't do well, he basically wouldn't let them play. They were winning under his tutelage because he taught them a lot of good basics and fundamentals of the game. But when he found out they weren't doing well in school, he basically sat them for a season. They forfeited every game until they raised their grades up. And this was like national news at the time. I think he was on like MTV and ESPN. And I believe this film was actually one of my MTV studios and got made into this movie. I thought the message was good in it. Although it's like drawn out and like I said, corny, I just really like this film. I did like that the actors had to go through like rigorous 3-week basketball camp, before the movie was shot, and they ended up doing it like 12-hour days, which I thought was cool. The action in it is great in terms of basketball. Also, Channing Tatum isn't as annoying in this film. He plays a serious role, and I did like him in 21 Jump Street, but this film he plays a serious role. Rick Gonzalez has a great little speech at the end. What do you think about this one?
Again, it's a good little movie. Samuel Jackson, again, it's hard to not like a movie with him in it. Put him as a coach, put him as a father, put him anything, and I'll watch him in it. I love movies. I don't know too many of sports movies that I don't like in one way or another. Like even a movie that's like a cheesy, not good one, I could laugh at and make fun of it, but still enjoy watching it. This one isn't one of those. This one is a good acted performance. Again, it's semi-serious. Personally, I like Blue Chips a little bit more, but this is still, again, a top basketball movie.
Yeah, I really liked Blue Chips too. But this comes, I don't know.
What did you just said something and I almost butted into you. How did you describe this movie? You said this movie is a really good, it shows you, I don't remember how you said it, but I was
No,
like,
it says it has like a good message. It's about accountability in it.
and I was going to be like, that's Blue Chips. No, but this one is actually better at that. But
No, Blue Chips I like a lot too. And Blue Chips, I think for the stars in it is really, really good. Because it has Shaq in there, Nick Nolte. I think it's more of a Blue Chips is more of a one man's kind of story though, of him becoming dirty and then realizing that he had to cross that line and then realizing he was wrong.
No, you're right.
This one I think it's like more of a not a redemption story, but like setting an example. And it's corny, but I like it. It's just I don't know. This is something that always stuck with me. One cool thing is that Mark Robert Ellis is a cinematographer of this movie, and he turned down doing Friday Night Lights to do this film. He's a really good cinematographer because he was doing a lot of football movies, and he wanted to do a basketball movie. This gameplay for the cinematography and the shots was tailored to each actor's strengths and weaknesses. Like Robert Richard, he's a fast player, so he kind of had the cinematography for him to show him fast. Channing Tatum plays good D, so they had him show because of his height, and they try to make shoot the scenes around that, which I think was pretty cool. And the basketball scenes are pretty good in this film.
Yeah, I mean that's really where you want to go in any sports movie. Are the sports scenes filmed, to a quality that the viewer could be like, and it is in this one.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen this one, check it out. Let me know what you think. Give me shit if you think I should be hated on for having this as my favorite basketball movie. My fraternity brothers and my friends give me a lot of shit already for that, but it's all good. But this is my favorite basketball movie, and it has our man Samuel L. Jackson in it. Let's move on to our next one, Tone.
Now you've seen how bad things can get and how quick they can get that way. Well, they can get a whole lot worse. So we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to pull together and we're going to find a way to get out of here. First, we're going to seal off this movie.
1999's Deep Blue Sea. He plays the role of Russell Franklin. The movie was directed by Rennie Harlan, who did Legend of Hercules, Exorcist: The Beginning, 12 Rounds, The Covenant, Cliffhanger, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Green Dream Master. This film stars The Punisher Thomas Jane, Saffron Burrows, Jacqueline McKenzie, Michael Rappaport, who seems to be hand in hand with Samuel L. Jackson movies, Stellan Skarsgård, and LL Cool J. The movie had a budget of $60 million and made a box office of $164 million. Tell me why you picked this one.
I picked it because of the most amazing musical lyrics ever by LL Cool J. Deepest, hardest, my head is like a shark's fin. That is the lyrics that close out the film. But the movie itself, I had a really hard time going back and forth between this and Snakes on a Plane. I like them both. They're like, to me, like those midnight Saturday night movies that are just so ridiculous, but they got a lot of actors that are familiar. See, like I want to say to you, like, they don't really do movies like this too much. And someone might say, well, they do Sharknado or something. I'd be like, but those actors aren't some of the actors like in this movie, which they do a good job. And Stellan Skarsgård is actually an amazing actor. So he's in this and he's sadly gets chewed up way too soon. But the part that you just played there with Samuel Jackson, that is the main reason why I picked this, because I'll never forget watching it the first time in the movie theater and did not see that coming at all. Thought he was in it for the long haul, and man, he was gone pretty quick.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best twists in a film. We could have used this on our twist for twist in the film.
We could have.
But Samuel L. Jackson told the Las Vegas Sun that he was motivated to take the part because, quote, I watched a lot of monster movies growing up, and we would go home and someone would pretend to be Dracula or Frankenstein and chase us, and we would run from them. This was an opportunity to finally be in a movie like that and run away from something that was bigger and stronger with sharp teeth and claws. I got to say stuff like, look out, go this way, and even though I didn't get to be that panicky. So he loves films, and then he did this Bullet Train. Ooh, Bullet Train. Uh, I think this film's funny to me because it's like it's another film with sharks. Like he kind of did it with Jaws. And the funny thing is, Thomas Jane had to swim alongside sharks, a real life shark, for some scenes, and he is terrified of sharks in real life. And the reason he's terrified of them is because of Jaws. So, and he was in this film, so I mean, there's some method acting going on there. And then I read that Samuel L. Jackson was interested in marine biology growing up in college, and then he plays a role where he's like a marine biologist, and he gets eaten by a shark. This movie definitely gave me that twist in it, and the CGI is really bad though.
Well, again, like I stated, it's cheesy, man. Like,
But it's not nowhere near as bad as Sharknado or Sand Sharks.
Okay, like I gotta say this. Like, I watch movies for 40 different reasons. This movie, I watch it because it's just fun. I mean, like, you're just gonna put this movie on and it's fun, and you're gonna laugh, and you're gonna think that this is ridiculous. And oh, look, there's Soprano's sister up in the tower. She's the one, Janice. She's in this, and then oh, look, Rappaport, he's in this, and I like that kind of movie because it doesn't mean that you have to do a whole lot of thinking, and it's like a stupid fun movie. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, the movie is still, it's not like the movie's lost its luster because of the graphics. I don't think that was like the main point. The main point is like stupid fun.
Yeah, and this is the only Samuel L. Jackson movie where another character uses this trademark word, motherfucker. LL Cool J uses it instead of him, which I thought was pretty funny.
I will say, Samuel Jackson is in another really, really, really good Rennie Harlan movie, A Long Kiss Goodnight, with Gina Davis. So he worked with Rennie a couple times.
Yeah. It's just a fun, like, it's one of those cheesy B movie, like B monster movies I think of like that I like a lot.
That's it. That's the same as like on the plane.
They ate me, a fucking shark ate me. It's from the Samuel L. Jackson beer from Dave Chappelle. That's one of the parts he said, like Deep Blue Sea, a shark ate me. I like this film. I just the only reason I say it is because I rewatched it today. While the chaos is going on at work, I had it on the side. And when the sharks would come out, I'm like, man, I couldn't remember the CGI being like that. I thought the CGI was better than what it was. But
it's like Alien. You ever see Alien? When's the last time you watched like Alien Resurrection?
Oh, I haven't seen it in a while.
It's not a bad movie. I mean, there's good performances, but man, when they do the CGI with the alien, it looks god awful.
Oh man,
it's an awkward time period for CGI. It really is. Like, there isn't a whole lot through this period. I mean, even Anaconda. I mean, bad.
Oh man, but you had the great John Voight as Cerrone in that movie.
Well, I know. Oh, that's an Academy Award-winning performance. You can't.
Cerrone, baby. No, but this one I enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, it's like one of those B horror movies that it's fun, and I think I got past the CGI, but it just made me laugh, and I saw I'm like, oh shit, because I remember seeing this like fresh, like when it came out, maybe a year or so, and I'm like, oh okay, and it kind of makes you think like it's crazy how this film the CGI has aged horribly, but stuff that like Terminator or Blade Runner have aged well, and even I don't know if it would be considered CGI, but Who's Framed Roger Rabbit? Like that stuff still looks good in today's age, and those movies were made like 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Two things. I think they used a little mixture of some practical, and those guys that you're mentioning with those other movies are Rennie Harlan's like the Temu version of those other guys.
I know.
Sorry, Remy. But
yeah,
Cutthroat Island. The Cutthroat Island is one of the biggest flops of all time.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet. Yeah, it's just me being me, but that's just the way I am. But check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a good B movie, a B horror movie, and Samuel L. Jackson gets eaten by a shark. But let's move on to our next one, my man.
The thing to notice about this piece, the thing that makes it very, very special, is its realistic depiction of its figures. When the characters reached the magazine, they were exaggerated, as always happens. This is vintage.
2000's Unbreakable. He played the role of Elijah Price. This movie was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, who directed The Sixth Sense, Signs, Lady in the Water, The Visit, Glass, Split, and The Village. The film stars, along with Samuel L., Bruce Willis, Robin Wright, and Spencer Treat Clark. Now, this film had a budget of $75 million and a box office of $248 million. This movie came right after, the big success of The Sixth Sense. So there was a lot of hype around this movie, and I saw this in theater. I liked it a lot. I know a lot of people didn't like it at first, and they kind of grew on them. I liked this movie a lot because it was something different. One, I loved the twist at the end of Mr. Glass, and I liked how M. Night Shyamalan kind of used comic books to portray to his characters, but not as like a superhero film, which this film is, in a different way. Like Samuel L. Jackson's character is obsessed with trying to find out if there's somebody that is a superhero, which is what he's doing. And we find out he's the villain at the end as Mr. Glass because he's evil and he has these deficiencies, and there's always somebody that's, opposite of him, that's unbreakable, which is Bruce Willis's character. And, I just love that aspect of it, how it's played into the film. You have comic book characters, but not really comic book characters that are in real life. The opening scene is crazy when they had the train accident and he's in the room with the doctor completely fine, and the guy is basically on the ventilator. And doctor tells him, like, besides this guy over here that's on the ventilator fighting for his life, it's just you and him, in it. This is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite films. It was shot in sequence, which is something very rare in films. When films are shot in sequence, they're usually shot out of sequence due to scheduling and stuff like that. And this film derived from an original script by M. Night Shyamalan when he felt no connections to the last 2/3 of the text, decided to discard them. So he cut out the last 2/3 of his film script and wrote it over again, which is pretty crazy if you think about it for somebody who's really a perfectionist like Shyamalan and tries to get you to freak out on his twist. This is when he was doing his best twist, if you think, what I mean? And he's kind of come back around, M. Night Shyamalan. But I thought Samuel L. Jackson's character in his film was awesome. He was deviant. He was sympathetic for him, especially when they showed things at him as a kid. Talking to his mom about he doesn't want to go outside because the kids bully him and he hurts himself. And then you feel bad for him when he falls down the stairs and busts his shit. Like, you feel bad for him in the film. And then it just spawned, 3 other films? Glass and Split,
Yep.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorites. What do you think about this one, man?
I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I'll always think it was better. I always thought it was better than The Sixth Sense, personally. For those things that you described. I mean, I when I walked out of the movie theater, I was blown away by so many different things. I was blown away by the feeling that I had. I was blown away by, as you stated, it felt like it was a comic book movie, but it was just so different than what you would think a comic book movie would be. It was smart. The problem, back to The Sixth Sense, is that I thought it was kind of like that movie's kind of a little bit like a one-trick pony. You see it once, and and then it's not like, to me, it's different than like maybe a movie like The Others or Shutter Island. I only could watch Haley Joel Osment in that movie one time, where I could see him in like Entourage, the movie, a bunch of times. No, that's just my own personal opinion. But this movie with Samuel L. Jackson, great performance. I mean, look at these other movies we're talking about during, his last 8 years before this, up to this role, and then look at this role. Just look at his face in the picture if you're looking online. I mean, completely different.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I think it could be better than The Sixth Sense. I think The Sixth Sense gets a lot of love because of the twist that you didn't expect coming. The only thing I don't like about this film, and I wish Shyamalan would have shot it, is I'm not a big fan of the text at the end when he finds out that he's the bad guy and it says he called the cops. Like, I wish he would just shown him the cops coming to arrest him or something, That would have been better for me. Like, even in Killers of the Flower Moon, even though that movie was 3 hours long, I wish they would have gave us like a little bit of him going to jail. Like that's Scorsese. Like I just think that to me, but I mean it's just nitpicking. That's just but I do like this film a lot. I like Samuel L. Jackson's character a lot, and he's the bad guy in it. It's very interesting. I just think it's I love when people think of different ways of doing things. Like
Yeah.
that's why it frustrates me so much with Hollywood remakes and Hollywood recycling ideas because you can recycle an idea, but you can make it something totally, totally different, and that's what Shyamalan did here. He made a superhero movie without really making a superhero movie. Like it didn't feel like a superhero movie to me. It felt
No,
like what the hell's going on, you know? And then this spawned into Split and Glass and those films. Like it's something different, and like it was, and this is peak Shyamalan. This peak Shyamalan. So it's something that was different, and it just made me really, really enjoy it. And Samuel L. Jackson knocks it out of the park.
I mean, again, and I mean, I haven't really, I've never asked Samuel L. Jackson, but I mean, how really much was he into comic books before taking this role? But then he really, really sells it. I mean, he makes it seem like he's been into comic books his whole life, and every role he's in, he makes it seem like he's been a basketball coach his whole life. It makes it seem like he's any role he's worked with sharks his whole life. Like he literally, that's why he's a good actor, because he embodies the role in which he takes on.
Yeah. And just a couple things, just to push on like how this is a comic book movie, but really isn't. Bruce Willis's character's name is David Dunn. It is very common for secret identities of comic book heroes, particularly the Marvel ones, to be um alternative, which is like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Matt Murdock, Reed Richards. Even Superman's was Clark Kent, who had some alternative name, and maybe other LL stars like Lois Lane, Lex Luthor. They have those things in there. And then several scenes relating to the Mr. Glass character involve Glass. As a newborn, he primarily is seen and reflected in mirrors. As a young child, he's seen reflected in a blank TV screen. He leaves his calling card on the windshield of David Dunn's car. He's reflected in a glass frame in his art gallery. His walking stick is made of glass, and that actual walking stick was not in the original script. Samuel L. Jackson actually added that for his character as a part of his ambiance, which I think is pretty awesome. Comic book scene behind him in one scene are Thor, which is the slip you have now. Thor, who for a time during the 1980s had a curse upon him that made his bones turn brittle and easy to break. So little details like that is pretty cool. If you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out. And if you have, it's worth a rewatch. Actually, I think that whole series is actually decent. Glass, this, and Split. I really enjoyed all those.
I mean, Split was really, really good. Glass was good too. Bruce does a good job in this movie too. He reminds me a little bit of his performance on 12 Monkeys that we were talking about recently. But again, just lighting, like even in this picture that we're looking at here, Shyamalan does a good job on the lighting in this movie. It's darker, it's dingier, it's not very bright, but it gets the point.
Yeah, definitely a good one to check out. But let's move on to our next one, my friend.
My name's Gavin Bannock. Doyle Gibson. Hey, listen, Doyle, that's not what I'm like this morning. I really isn't. That's not who I am. I mean it. I'm a lawyer. I should never let the steam an accident. I should know better. My file. Did you find it? I had an orange file. It was in my briefcase. I thought maybe it fell out and picked it up. Do you have it? Did you get it? You said better luck next time. I said give me a lift. You said better luck next time and just
2002's Changing Lanes. He plays the role of Doyle Gibson. The movie is directed by Roger Mitchell, who did The Duke, Blackbird, My Cousin Rachel, Tea with the Dames, and Elizabeth, A Portrait in Parts. The film stars Ben Affleck, Toni Collette, Kim Staunton, Sidney Pollack, Richard Jenkins, and Amanda Peet. and a box office of 94 million and a budget of 45 million. Tone, tell me why you picked this one, my man.
This is probably my most recent. I'm always trying to go back through movies that I just have missed or skipped for one reason or another. I think I skipped this one probably more than likely because of Ben Affleck. At this time, I was like, well, is this going to be good or whatever? But then I like looked it up and it was like, it's got a very high rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like in the 80s or 90s. And I was like, what? I haven't seen this or sat down. And it was literally last year when we were doing the show, I sat down and I watched this movie and I was blown away by the message, the overall presentation of the movie, the message, and overall Samuel Jackson's performance really is what got me. So when you said we were going to do Samuel Jackson, the first thing I thought of was this movie because he, like Coach Carter, and like most movies, he's this guy in this movie who is a recovering alcoholic, and he really wants to have custody of his child, and he's just been working really hard to get it all together, and he's got to go to the court to for this, and he's got to be there on time. At the same time, Ben Affleck has got a court case he's got to go to, a different court case, and their lives cross paths during this, and they both don't get what they want. And it starts this downward spiral of vengeance to try to take it out on one another because they couldn't get what they wanted until they realize towards the end, reality is that, what the hell are we all doing this for, to hurt each other, when the reality is we could have helped each other. And Samuel Jackson just does a great job at showing the upsetness and hurt because he doesn't make it to that court case on time. He's pretty much told then he's not going to get to see his daughter, and she's going to take him to another place. And it was all because Ben Affleck, as you heard in that clip, whoops, sorry, and that's pretty much, he starts to bring vengeance. But then Affleck's like, well, I'm a lawyer. Forget this guy. I'll do this. And it's a back and a forth that just really leads down a dark place. Sidney Pollack, who's an amazing director, does a good job as Affleck's father-in-law, because what ends up happening is Affleck loses the documents that he needs to Samuel Jackson. So Samuel Jackson's pretty much like, yeah, you made me not go to my case. Now I got this for you. It's really a good back and forth movie that I just really enjoyed when I saw it recently.
Yeah, so when I first saw this film, I was getting a lot of Falling Down vibes from Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be some way with that kind of nature of a film, with the Samuel L. Jackson character. But I think in this film, I felt more sympathetic to Samuel L. Jackson's character than Michael Douglas. 'Cause Michael Douglas, you can see why he thinks he was just basically fed up with stuff, but he also had some, traits that were not likable. Samuel L. Jackson seems like he was just trying to, he was just having a shit day, and basically stuff was just tumbling and, basically rolling into a big, massive pile of shit with everything that was going on in his life. And he gets hit by a car. The guy tries to give him a blank check without taking responsibility, which is like an a-hole kind of move. Because you don't know if that check's going to be worth anything. And then he just drives off, and like he wouldn't even give him a ride, like he said in that clip. Then he tries to mess with his children. It's just ridiculous how they go back and forth. Even though there's like a kind of redemption between two characters at the end, I did like the kind of the back and forth. And they show that Ben Affleck is not a good person in this film. He tries to redeem himself in the end of the movie, but he's really not a good person in this film at all. And Samuel L. Jackson, you just feel for him the whole time. Like, what else can he do? Like, what? I thought he was gonna kill Affleck, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Affleck is like this guy, and he's gonna take over this partnership, and Samuel Jackson just wants to see his daughter, and he's struggled his whole life, and he can't make it to what he needs to because Affleck caused this accident, and it's a shame because it's a wrong place, wrong time. But then again, what it is I think by the end, of course, Affleck realizes he's been an asshole this whole time too, and he needs not to be an asshole anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what's great at the end is that Affleck pulls the strings to make everything okay, and the way they look at each other at the end. Because the truth of the matter is like you just said, I mean, what happens if Samuel did just kill him? And then he goes to jail forever. But Samuel actually, everybody just took it to that edge where it never got so far where it couldn't get fixed at the end.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the film. It pulls at you. The tension is there. It gives you that tension, like what's going to happen next. Like, and it does that with the character of Samuel L. Jackson. Cool thing about it is, like it shows his depth as an actor. Like again, showing his depth as an actor in this film. Like we just talked about his role in Unbreakable. You know, he plays. You feel sympathy for him. This film, you feel a lot of sympathy for him, and it's just like who can relate? Like I know I've been in situations. I know you have too, where shit happens and then another thing happens after that, and you're like, God damn, how much worse can it get? And then something well again happens. You're like, it just kind of feels like you can't dig yourself out, and that's the way this guy, is in the film. Like he's just one thing after another, and I do like the way it ended for both of them. I think it was the best way it could have ended in terms of writing. But it's a really, really good film. I saw this like what was it? Maybe 10 years ago. So I saw it recently late too because I never heard of it, and then one of my friends is telling me about it, and I decided to watch it. Uh, Also, when I was doing research for this, Tone, he wears a purple hat in here, and I guess Samuel L. Jackson's characters often feature the color purple. Mr. Glass wears purple. Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber in Star Wars. So that's kind of funny. That well, he specifically asked for a purple lightsaber so people could know and see him when he does a fight scene. He asked George Lucas, and he's the only Jedi to have a purple lightsaber. But this film also has 3 Oscar winners: Ben Affleck, William Hurt, and Sidney Pollack, and 3 Oscar nominees: Samuel L. Jackson, Toni Collette, and Richard Jenkins. Yeah, it's a classic film, man, that should be talked about more. Like a lot of Samuel L. Jackson, he has so many films, and it's kind of crazy that a lot of them aren't talked about as much.
Again, and for me, the ending when they're looking at each other and it's that peaceful moment. There's a really good Bob Marley cover by Annie Lennox, "Waiting in Vain," and that's pretty much like a lot of movies for me. I don't know if it's just that's the cheesiness in me, but all it takes is like a song at the end to make you go, "Oh wow, what a great ending!" And you're like, "Wow, why didn't I see this 15 years sooner? I could have been talking this up." And that's what this movie made me feel like when I was done watching it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but when you first did the "Whoa," it made me think
I
of
know. Well, that
like
was
like
my.
it
Oh
made me
my
seem like you
god!
were like Mickey Mouse, like you were turning into Mickey Mouse there. But no, this one's a good one. Another cool fun fact about it is a young Bradley Cooper was in a scene that was supposed to take place earlier in the movie. He was supposed to play a lawyer that was getting a job at the Metropolitan Museum, but it was cut. But they added it into the Blu-ray. So if you want to see an extra scene with a young Bradley Cooper, check that out. But yeah, this is a good one, Tone. If you haven't seen this one, check this one out. It's a good, like Joey P says, good storyline for it. It's a good film to check out. But let's move on to our last 2, my man.
Let's do it.
This is a tasty burger.
1994's Pulp Fiction. He plays the role of Jules Winfield. This is the only film that Samuel L. Jackson was nominated for an Oscar. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. The film was directed by Quentin Tarantino, who did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Hateful Eight, The Glorious Bastards, Death Proof, Kill Bill 1 and 2, and Jackie Brown. The film stars John Travolta, Bruce Willis, Uma Thurman, Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer, and Ving Rhames. It had a box office of $213 million on a budget of $8 million, which is crazy because this film has Bruce Willis, and $5 million of the salaries of the cast went to the budget, which means he took a less salary for this, even though he was a box office draw. Well, not a box office draw, more of a big name. His movies leading up to this didn't do too well, but it resurrected the career of John Travolta, which that role was supposed to be for Michael Madsen, and he was in Wyatt Earp. and he couldn't do that, do the film. They wouldn't let him out to do it. So it kind of resurrected his career. This is probably one of the biggest roles, if not the role, that Samuel L. Jackson is known for as Jules, quoting Ezekiel from the Bible, Ezekiel 25:17, and the path of the righteous man. When he says, "I will strike down thee in anger." Uh, this is a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker. Yes, this is classic Tarantino. This is dialogue 101. If you want to read it, the king of dialogue. I always call Tarantino. I love the interactions. This has been parodied in everything. Samuel L. Jackson knocks it out of the ballpark in one of his like biggest leading roles. The film was a box office success. It was on Roger Ebert's greatest films of all time list before he passed. It has so much like little Easter eggs that you can watch it back and forth. I love that it's not done in a linear way of a film, meaning that it has little scenes going back and forth in it, little storylines with it. Samuel L. Jackson is probably one of my favorite characters, and I just thought weird that he didn't eat pork, mess with the swine. Beef says he saw it in the theater twice. It's one of those films, man. Like I still pop this on and just still find new things about it. Tone, what about you?
Well, again, my father taking a 12-year-old me to the movie theater and then telling me to close my eyes when they went down into the basement. He's like, "Close your eyes. You don't want to see what's going to be down." I'm like, and all you heard was da 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 da. The movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is like to me, it's just cool. Just everything about it is cool. As Joey P has stated, every time I watch it too, I see something new. You can really put your focus into a different area. Samuel Jackson, of course, you have the scenes that everyone's familiar with. I like the scenes like when they go to Quentin Tarantino's house with Harvey Keitel and they got to clean up and he's wearing the blue shorts. That whole entire dialogue situation is really, really, really good. I like reach into that bag and pull out the wallet that says "bad motherfucker" on it. I mean, that's just a great line because he actually goes into the bag and pulls out a fucking wallet that says "bad motherfucker." But I mean, as you stated, I mean, this is, if not the one of his best roles.
Yeah, the part that cracks me up is when at Tarantino's house when they're cleaning the car, and he's sitting in the back seat and he's complaining. Then he's like, "Wait a minute, why the fuck am I back here cleaning this shit? You did this shit, you do it." That part and the part where the Wolf asks Tarantino, what do these guys look like?" And he's like, "Dorks." And he's like, "They're your clothes, motherfucker." Which always cracked me up because it's just Samuel L. Jackson throwing out his trademark line. But Tone, we didn't do a deep dive into this film, but I want to go through, according to a list of leaked documents, this is a short list of casting choices for a number of characters in the film. Okay.
Okay.
For the role of Pumpkin, it was given to Tim Roth, but Johnny Depp, Christian Slater, Gary Oldman, Nicolas Cage, Eric Stoltz, and John Cusack were considered for that role.
Oh, wow.
For Honey Bunny, it went to Amanda Plummer, Patricia Arquette, Lily Taylor, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Bridget Fonda, Phoebe Cates, and Marissa Tomei were considered for that role.
Wow.
For Vincent Vega, we already said Michael Madsen. John Travolta got the role. Alec Baldwin, Gary Oldman, William Peterson, Jason Patrick, Andy Garcia, Michael Keaton, Denzel Washington, Sean Penn, Tim Roth, your boy Quaid, Dennis Quaid, Robert Carradine, and Aidan Quinn. Yeah, I think Christian Slater would have did well in Pumpkin. I could see him in that role. For the role of Jules, now Lawrence Fishburne was originally offered this role, but when he went to go meet him, he being Tarantino, he offered him the role, and his team was trying to push him to be the lead of this film, and not Travolta. And Tarantino said they didn't have any faith in me as a filmmaker, so he's very talented, so they pulled it back and they gave it to Samuel L. Jackson. Eddie Murphy was considered for this role, as well as Charles S. Dutton and Michael Beach. For the role of Butch, Matt Dillon was considered for this role. Sylvester Stallone was considered for this role. Sean Penn, Nicolas Cage again, Aidan Quinn, and Johnny Depp again. For the role of Winston Wolfe, which was for Harvey Keitel. Now, Tarantino has said that Wolfe was specifically written for him, but if he wasn't available, they were looking at Warren Beatty, Al Pacino, Danny DeVito. I'm not gonna lie, if Danny DeVito was Wolfe, I would have cracked my ass up. Samuel L. Jackson was considered before he got the role of Jules. Alec Baldwin, Michael Keaton. Can you imagine Michael Keaton as Wolfe?
That would have been interesting.
Christopher Walken, Michael Parks, Charles S. Dutton, and Travolta before he took the lead role. For the role of Captain Coons, which is Christopher Walken's character, Sean Penn, Michael Parks, William Devine, Charles S. Dutton's getting offered all these roles. I'm surprised he didn't get any of them. Robert De Niro, William Peterson, and Al Pacino. And finally, for the role of Marcellus Wallace, you got Ving Rhames, Samuel L. Jackson, Ken Ford, Sid Haig, which is Captain Howdy, James Engelwright, Jim Brown, which I can see him doing it, Bernie Cassie, Carl Weathers, Roger E. Mosley, Max Gillian, Tony Todd. Can you imagine Tony Todd as Marcellus? I can. Bill Duke, I can imagine him as well. Delroy Lindo, and Charles S. Dutton again. Man, it's crazy that all these people were considered for these roles. And the last I can give you is Mia Wallace, who is played by Uma Thurman. It was it was considered for Virginia Madsen, Marissa Tomei, Patricia Arquette, Alfre Woodard, Jennifer Beals, Pam Grier, Phoebe Cates. Tarantino must love Phoebe Cates because
it's hard not to love Phoebe.
Yeah, Bridget Fonda, Jasmine Guy, A Different World, fame there. Angela Bassett, Annette O'Toole, Deborah Winger, Robin Wright, Cinda Williams, and Meg Tilly. Crazy stuff, man. If those people could have got
every time you kept mentioning Sean Penn, I kept thinking about him in Carlito's Way, since you brought that up earlier, and I just thought if he had that same hair in this movie, it would have just been
Davey. He ain't afraid.
That's a good character. Oh, that's a good character.
Yeah, this film has great monologues in it. Christopher Walken's with the watch is great. And he actually pauses in the film to make up like a dramatic effect, but it really wasn't for dramatic effect. At the time of the filming, he actually forgot his line, so he was trying to remember, and he made it seem like it was a pause, which again shows like Walken's a good director, a good actor. But yeah, we will do a show on Pulp Fiction. Like,
oh, we will. We have to
eventually do a deep dive. But that was just like a snippet of the roles that were offered, or considered. But this film is synonymous with Samuel L. Jackson. There's so many quotable lines from it. Do you speak English, motherfucker? English? Do you speak it? And he's also going to kill the guy from the film Career Opportunities.
Oh yeah. Also the guitar player in the Doors movie.
Yeah. God.
Frank Whaley, Mr. Frank Whaley.
Yeah, he's also in School of Rock. He plays the manager of the club.
He sure does.
But yeah, definitely all-time classic. When it's on, I still watch it. It's one of those films that I can't turn away from. And it has funny things like The Gimp.
Oh yeah. And
Wake Up the
one
Gimp.
of the greatest soundtracks of all time.
Yes. Like, this is Tarantino. Would you say this would be probably Tarantino's best film?
I would. For me, it is. I've had agreement with a lot of people to say a lot of other ones, but this is my favorite.
I would say this is his best film. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my final choice. Let's get to Tony's final choice.
Them motherfuckers ain't here to buy no mandingos. They wants that girl.
Steven, what the hell are you talking about?
They playing your ass for a fool, is what I'm talking about. They ain't here for no muscle-bound Jimmy. They here for that girl.
What girl? What, Hildy?
Yeah, Hildy. Her and Django. Them niggas know each other.
He just bought Eskimo Joe.
Did he give you any money?
No,
No, not yet, but
Then
they
he
go.
ain't Bob Diddley.
2012's Django Unchained. He plays the role of Steven, and it's directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Jamie Foxx, Christopher Waltz, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kerry Washington, and Walter Goggins. The film had a box office of $426 million on a $100 million budget. Tell me why you picked this one.
Shot amazing. I like the Jamie Foxx does a great job in this movie. Just this week I was reading that Leonardo DiCaprio, he struggled saying some of the more harsh dialogue that he was having to deliver, and Samuel L. Jackson pretty much told him, shut up and just say it, and that just shows again Samuel L. Jackson is a bad mofo. And in this movie, he's not a good man at all. He's a very bad man in a different way. But again, what is he playing? Like a 70, 80-year-old? You know what I mean? Like, so in this movie, he's playing another character. He's playing like somebody 30 years older than he actually is. He's bald with just white hair on the sides. And he's just a cranky old man.
Yeah, the dialogue and between him and Jamie Foxx at the end of the movie, he's praying to God to kill Django is hilarious to me. Steven's a bad dude. He likes his white owner, but he's smart. Like he knows that Django and the good doctor are trying to swindle the Candyman. But it's crazy. In this film, Christopher Waltz, he won an Oscar for this film, and he originally turned it down.
Really?
Yeah, he turned it down, and because he didn't know if he wanted to do it. So Tarantino said, "No. You have to do this role. He begged him, and basically they were talking back and forth. So Waltz was thinking about it, and he's like, all right, I'll do this role only if my character is pure, meaning he never can act in a negative or evil manner in the film." And Tarantino wrote a handwritten letter to him saying, of course, mine heir, which is because he was in Inglourious Bastards.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, and Waltz sent him a telegram back, mine heir, of course. So that's how he accepted the role. Christopher Waltz is just a phenomenal actor. Like another great character, like a character actor that's kind of he's back-to-back Oscars, kind of, with the Inglourious Bastards into this film, which he's just phenomenal in. Jamie Foxx is great as Django. Of course, there's a film called Django, and it's based with a white man and I think Mexican revolutionaries that is in it. And that actor actually appears in this film towards the end, I believe, or when they go to the Brittle's house. I think he's in there. He's wearing white gloves. But this film is, for one, it's like the dialogue is really, really, as they say, I guess it's not really accepted by a lot of people. A lot of people hate the dialogue in it, but I can understand that Tarantino was doing it for the time of the period. He got a lot of flack for it, but to me, it's a good action film.
I mean,
Good
the
acting.
shootout at the end is top notch, and just the whole way when DiCaprio gets it, and then Waltz gets it, and then Calvin. The way Calvin screams, "No!" when DiCaprio gets shot or whatever. It's just good acting.
Yeah.
Good acting.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about DiCaprio was he was originally considered for the role of Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards, but Tarantino thought, well, maybe I should use a real German actor, a person who speaks German, so he chose Christopher Waltz. And this is the second, chance that Tarantino got to work with DiCaprio, to the point, like, when he was doing the part where he smashes his hand on a dinner table, when he's like his glass with the palm, and he starts to bleed, he ignored it and stayed in character. That's actually really his real blood in that shot. And they said after that shot, that scene happened, they erupted in, applause. All the cast did, because he just stood in character. He's a complete asshole in this film. a complete bad guy. And it's like the second time he played a bad guy besides the Man in the Iron Mask, which I like a lot too. I like that movie a lot because I'm a nerd. But couple little minor tidbits about this film. Jonah Hill was supposed to play a bigger role in the film. He was originally cast to portray a character named Scotty Harmony, the son of a Southern slave, who would purchase Broomhilda, which is Kerry Washington's character, to become a concubine. This entire segment was cut. One thing I really love is about this whole like Jonah Hill in this film is not just the fact when they're putting the mask over their face and he's like, I can't see. But the whole like backstory of getting this role. When James Franco was big, they had a roast of James Franco. And he happened to be there attending this, Jonah Hill was. And one of the guys got up on stage and he was like, Jonah, I heard you're in Django Unchained. And I heard when they were trying to sell it to you, Quentin Tarantino was like, I had this idea for a spaghetti Western. And you said you had me at spaghetti, which always cracks me up. I love the music in this film because it is by the original score and composer of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You know, Nico Musser, I forget his last name. What's his last name? Tone. Oh, Marconi.
Yep,
Marconi. And Marconi. I'm sorry, I just had it written down. I had to look for it. But he had some trouble with Tarantino in this film, where he said that he probably would never collaborate with him again, since he didn't like the way that he places music in his films without coherence, never giving enough time. However, they worked together again on The Hateful Eight, and he won his first Academy Award. So this is an excellent film. I know it gets a lot of flack. This might be not some people's alley for it, but Samuel L. Jackson's, performance in it is awesome, as well as Christopher Waltz. And you get to see Jamie Foxx's horse Cheetah, which is the horse he uses. This is actually his real horse, Cheetah. If you had a horse, what would you name it, Tone?
Ooh, you know what I would name it? I would name it Burton.
Burton. That's a great thing. Oh man. But those are our Samuel L. Jackson films. Those are our 10 films that we went through. Hopefully we gave you some films that you never heard of. And some films that you have heard of. A little bit of some Samuel L. Jackson facts. He suffered from a stutter while growing up. A speech therapist suggested auditioning for a play, and it might help his speech. He did it, and he changed his major for it. Although he had been acting in small roles in theater productions, it was not until he was 40 years old that he achieved his first major role in Do the Right Thing. And he was 45 when he became a star in Pulp Fiction. So he started late. And he also was an usher at Dr. Martin Luther King's funeral. Samuel L. Jackson's 77 years old. He's going to be 77, which is crazy when I think about it. He was born in 1948. He has over 150 film roles and counting, plus numerous TV, video game, and voiceover credits. As a leading actor, his films have made over $4.5 billion. As a supporting actor, his films have made over $10 billion. Nick Fury is his most beloved role, which surprised me. As I said, he was nominated for an Oscar with Pulp Fiction. He had 49 other award wins, including a 2022 honorary Oscar, with 99 nominations in total for other awards. This is a magical career for this guy, and he's still going, man.
I know.
Any final thoughts about Samuel L. Jackson?
I mean, so many great. I mean, there's so many movies we didn't even get to tonight. Black Snake Moan. He's great in that movie.
Yeah.
But again, you sit there and you just, it's hard to disparage someone who's as good of an actor as Samuel is. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
a film that he does really well in that's not really a great film, and people hate on it because it's not the original, is a new RoboCop when he plays the news guy.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's been a while since I've seen that. I'll watch that one.
It's not that film's not horrible. I just know a lot of people don't like it because they're more into the original film. But I love his role in that film.
I liked him in Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
He played the colonel. I mean, he can play. You call him to do what he needs to play, and he can do what he's being asked in the role. I mean, I'm always a fan of those movies where you got like I love Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta. He's in one called Lakeview Terrace where he's like the police officer who's like
Yeah.
he's like hunting down Patrick Wilson and Kerry Washington. But again, put him in any movie and I'll watch him.
Sam says his filmography is like a Cheesecake Factory menu. Oh, good old Sam. So that's our Samuel L. Jackson breakdown. Let us know in the comments or on Twitter if there are any films that you liked him and that we mentioned, and we will definitely check them out. Moving on to kind of close up the show before we get to the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, we're going to go into Coming Soon, my friend.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
So what we got coming up, Tone?
We got a breakdown for you, a good classic, a good one that maybe it'll snow outside and you can stay inside and listen to us and get all comfortable because we're going to be talking about the classic Misery. James Caan, Kathy Bates, a lot of really great quotes.
Get your legs broken.
Yes, Stephen King, Richard Farnsworth. You go on forever about this movie. I'm very excited to go in depth with all the usual goods. We will have the casting. We will have the actual movie. We will have some after notes. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, looking forward to this. It's a movie that I love. I know you love. I read the book as well. We're big Stephen King fans here. Decided to go into like a little early horror film, but this film also won an Academy Award for Kathy Bates, which Oscar season is around the corner. So really looking forward to going into deep dive into this one.
It's gonna be a good one. Definitely excited to see what you pull up in as far as facts and behind the scenes stuff. Always interested to see what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so be sure to check that one out. It'll be next week at 8:35 on Friday. We'll be doing our deep dive into Misery. And before we get into the Sugar Baggy soundtrack pick of the week, I just want to say thank you everybody for listening. I know this was a little longer show, but you guys seem to like the long ones. We've got a lot of comments that you guys listen to us while you're working or kind of doing your chores and whatnot. But this was a real fun one for me because I really like Samuel L. Jackson. I know you do too. So I try to come up with some obscure films. You came up with some really good ones, like that I definitely have to check out again. But
that's why I love doing the show with you. It's like it's exciting to wait for your 5 because you're gonna either get what I like. What was it? The last one you picked 4 of the 5 that I would have picked if you just asked me what I was picking. So it's easier than to go through and pick. Well, I do also like these other ones. Really cool.
Yeah. Sam says, hey, phrasing. But besides that, again, we really appreciate you guys watching, listening.
Thank you.
And viewing and interacting with us. You guys are the reason we do it, and we do it because it's fun. Before we get to your last segment, just want to let you guys know we did release a new at the mini show where we discussed some video game topics along in there, along with the news of the Russo brothers taking over the X-Men franchise going forward. Some Ocean 14 talk in there. And we are going to release a new one next week. So we're making the mini show a weekly thing that will be a 30-minute show. It's not going to be live. It'll be recorded. We usually drop that either Thursday or early Friday, just depending on how our schedules rack up and what news is out for the week. We already got one headline going for next week, so I'm pretty sure we'll have some more coming through. So check that out. That'll be on the YouTubes and on the...
Feeling kind of woozy here.
Yep. That'll be going on the YouTubes and all where you get your audio. Tell everybody what you were doing for the Hook Up on Music, my man.
We just dropped our newest episode. We had 2 episodes this week. We dropped one back on Monday, but then our newest one just dropped today. We talked about me and fellow Penguin Brian. We dug into some of his records, and it was a blast. We're going to start doing it maybe a little bit more regularly. And it's going to be a good time. We dug into Nathaniel Ratliff and the Night Sweats. If you have not listened to their new one, please do that. It's going to be really good.
Yep, check it out. And with that, Tone, close us out, my man, with your soundtrack pick of the week, my guy.
The Sugar Baggies Soundtrack Pick of the Week.
Tonight, my soundtrack pick of the week is The Beach. A film soundtrack that goes a little bit more towards I don't know what you would like to call it, electronica, ambient, but a soundtrack that is just loaded with a lot of good songs. What you just heard there was Porcelain by Moby, also appearing on their on his Play album. But what's ironic, by coincidence, track number 7 is called Return of Django, which we just talked about, Django Unchained. I don't think that's any coincidence that I picked the soundtrack and that was in there. But that's by Lee Scratch Perry, written, performed by the Asian Dub Foundation. But there's a lot of artists on this album, from Orbit. We have Underworld, who just actually announced a show coming up in at the Radius in Chicago coming up. But their song on this album, 8 Ball, really good song. I like that song a lot. Blur is on here doing On Your Own. What's cool is a lot of these are like remixes. So On Your Own is a different mix than the one you may be used to. New Order does Brutal on here. In the movie, it's not featured in the soundtrack, but for Bob Marley with Redemption Song. Good soundtrack. I've always enjoyed the movie. It's a Danny Boyle movie. It's his follow-up from Trainspotting. But again, its soundtrack is definitely one that if you're ever seen the movie and see the beach locales that are filmed in it, the music works really well.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I enjoyed it. Soundtrack is really good. I'll give you another tidbit of information about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's criticized because it destroyed the area they filmed it in. And
really?
Yeah, it did some environment.
You this info to me.
Yeah,
this info.
It's a beach in Thailand that was filmed called Maya Bay, and the film crew did some damage to it because they were trying to make it look more tropical. So they removed coconut trees, and they added palm trees, they bulldozed things, and they littered, and they got lawsuit for it. But, that's Hollywood for you. But definitely check out the movie and check out the soundtrack. Totally, like, it does do a lot of electronic music in it. New Order is as electronica as you can get. I would say they were the godfathers of electronica.
Yeah.
And then, then you got Depeche Mode and stuff like that, but they're not on here. But New Order is a good tune. Sugar Ray's on here as well. Spinning, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Spinning, right? They do Spinning. That's the song they do.
Yep, Spinning Away. Yep.
Yeah, good album. Check it out. Tone, you always do some great deep dives for these picks, and always surprise you with what you come up with, man.
It's very interesting too. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of this movie. It's called It's All Gone, Pete Tong. You ever hear of this movie?
No.
It's about a DJ who loses his hearing, but he's like the world's most famous DJ. It's a really crazy movie, but Pete Tong actually is the producer of this album. But again, it's crazy that when you look back at it, it's 25 years old here in 21 days.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is 25 years old here up in February. It's crazy that this movie came out that long ago. But I guess when you look at Leonardo DiCaprio, you can tell how long it's been, because look at him in Django and then look at him in The Beach. And wow.
All these movies we do just makes me feel old as shit, especially when I found out today it's Samuel L. Jackson 76.
Oh man, I know.
But shout out to Depeche Mode, Joey P. My man, Joey P is a lead singer of Depeche Mode. Check him out.
Well, real quick to put in perspective before you go, the lady who the song Mick Jagger was dating, it's You Can't Always Get What You Want. She passed away this week, and she was 78.
Yeah.
So, like, that just shows that Samuel L. Jackson is as old as, like, the girl that Mick Jagger wrote about, and You Can't Always Get What You Want, which that song came out in 1969. So, whoa.
Time flies, yo.
Sure does when you're having fun like we do here.
Yes, sir. Well, that's our show. Everyone have a good night. Be sure to check out the shows that we mentioned earlier and look out for the Hook Up on Music at the mini show. It's getting drafty in here, and as well as our deep dive into Misery next week. Take it easy, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?